Good day, and welcome to this first webinar in 2021 by Altera Production. Today, we want to tell you how we in Altera can utilize internal access to FPSO conversion candidates to bring value to your business. And the title is From Shuttle to FPSO. My name is Stig Bøtker, and I'm the Director of Business Development in Altera Production. And I'm here with Bernt, Lilliestråle, who is the Director of Early Phase and Innovation, also in Altera Production. And before I get started, I want to encourage you all to ask questions in our chat, and then hopefully we will be able to answer them at the end of the session. Also, I want to let you all know that this webinar will be recorded. And the agenda for the next 25 minutes. First, I want to give you a short introduction to Altera and also just touch upon a little bit of the conversion we have done before Bernt will take over and give the main part of the presentation, which is about Altera conversion approach, before we finally go for summary and question session. In January 2020, Brookfield, which is a Canadian investment company, took full ownership of Altera infrastructure. And at the same time, they also delisted us from the New York Stock Exchange. And in the end of March last year, we were rebranded from TK Offshore to Altera Infrastructure. And the FPSO business stream was named Altera Infrastructure Production AS, or as we call ourselves day-to-day, Altera Production. Altera Infrastructure comprises 3 business units: Altera Production, Altera Shuttle and Storage, and ALP Maritime Services. And it is the business unit Altera Shuttle and Storage that give us an opportunity to develop a unique business model, considering they are operating 29 shuttle tankers. But we will come back to that later. The production division of Altera Infrastructure is a mid-sized lease and operating company, and it's second to none when it comes to harsh environment operation. We have a total of 140 years of cumulative FPSO experience, and of these are 110 years in harsh environment. Today we own and/or operate 9 FPSOs in 2 regions: the North Sea, where we do operation in both the Norwegian and the UK sector, and in Brazil, though we do have significant growth ambitions to also operate in other parts of the world. Our business models are build, own and operate and duty holder agreement, but our industry is changing, and we do see that we also need to change, and I'm sure that in the future we will also have other contracts models. When it comes to project categories, we execute new build, conversions, and redeployment, and we have a long and good experience with all types of these projects. So let us go in and look a little bit on our latest conversion we have done. What we see here is the two of our conversion projects. It is the Cidade de Itajaí and the Libra project. The Cidade de Itajaí was based on a tanker that was built in 1985 by Hyundai Heavy Industry, while the Libra was built on one of our own shuttle tankers that was built in 2001 by Samsung. But what is important here is that both these vessels are from well respected yards, and that is actually a key when converting to an FPSO to avoid surprises. And it's worth notice that this project was done on time and on schedule by SimCorp. Also, the total number of hours done in SEMCOR was 28 million, and they were both done without any LTIs. We executed the project together with our Brazilian JV partner, OCN. What we see here are the project we did, Navia Norvegia to Pionera di Libra. As I said, a very successful project. Today, Libra is operating for Petrobras offshore Brazil. We have a long-term contract until 29, and there is also opportunities for further extension on that project. But it is interesting to see how it looked before it was converted and what a sophisticated vessel it is today. And when you look at it, you may say, oh, this is not really a big one. It's only 50,000 barrels per day. But what is special with the vessel is that it is done as an early production vessel, which actually can move from one place to another. And therefore, it actually has to be, let us say, designed for different compositions. So we would say this is a very successful project. So let us go to the last slide in my part of the presentation. And here we actually see the shuttle tankers we have available through the unit in Altera. In the beginning, I showed that they had 29 shuttle tankers, and you will see that I have only mentioned 13 shuttle tankers here, and that's because these are the ones we have seen as suitable for conversions. The other ones are newer. You may also have heard about our e-shuttles, which just came on, was fabricated last year, and of course these are too young for conversions. And you may also see that all these are from Samsung, which we see as a guarantee for quality, which again, as I have mentioned earlier, is important when we are going to use them for FPSO conversion. So let me now hand over to Bernt.
Thank you, Stig. The focus in this presentation is around some key elements of converting a shuttle tanker into FPSO. I will not go into all the details of the conversion projects, but the focus will be on the actual benefits that you as a field developer can render if we are able to use a shuttle tanker where we are the owner of the vessel, and we can use that as the donor for the marine hull. So what are actually the benefits then of utilizing an existing shuttle tankers? Of course, you have the operational and commercial aspects. What that renders is that we actually know the operating history of the vessel. We also know to which level the vessel is maintained, and of course we have access to vessel inspections. Utilizing an existing hull will also lower the greenhouse gas emission, and is part of our sustainability objectives, and I'm sure that's same goal with the clients. We also have the commercial access, so it's taken out the party in those negotiations. How low cost you will get, that we'll have to discuss with Stig, but at least we have that commercial availability. But there is of course more. We also have the engineering aspects. So from that point of view, we have access to all drawings and as-built information. For example, we have performed projects utilizing third-party vessels, and we might in the early phases only have access to 70 documents. For an existing shuttle tanker, so we have the ownership, we maybe have access to 700 documents, and we know they're up to date. Knowing that we also can look into all class and statutory information, not only recent but historic, is also an advantage. And of course, we have access to all maintenance and inspection records, any modification, and the latest dry dock reports. All that giving us the capacity to quick do verification if the nominated hull is suitable for a specific project, both with regards to turret, topside weight, where we can locate turret if that is required, and potentially reuse of some of the key critical equipment from a shuttle tankers, who normally both have either Shuttle and or Bøtker rudders available, which could be advantage for some of the projects. So why is this important then? From this aspect, I have used information that was given to us from IPA, which is the independent project analysis, a well-known industry company who review not only FPSO projects, but also large capital projects. In their database, they have over 120 global projects, FPSO projects, where 75 is completed and include both new builds and conversions. And they have looked at the overall FPSO growth in cost on some key categories. You can see from this graph, it's in percentage. So you can see the average percentage growth is for engineering, above 60, project management around 50, topside fabrication around 20, and hull fabrication or conversion above 20% or closer to 30. In this presentation, I will focus on the last part, which is related to our access to the shuttle tankers. So why is this important in real terms? Well, one thing is to look at it in percentage, but if you look at it in real terms, and I'm then talking dollars, you could get the feel that the engineering and project management was the most important aspect. And that is of course true. Those are three critical aspects in a large FPSO project. From the IPA database, if you look at a $1 billion FPSO project, you can translate the percentages into the following number: 60 for engineering, 40 for project management, 90 for the topside, and 80 for the hull. So it means that out of these aspects, even though lower percentage, it's a huge cost risk for overruns if you don't get it right. But there's more to the story than just the actual cost overrun on the fabrication costs. If you look at the next slide, you will see that it's not only the whole fabrication cost growth that will increase if you haven't done enough definition. You will also see that the engineering cost growth is increasing. So non-inspection of the hull render you a huge risk also for growing costs to perform additional engineering during the project phase. Hence again, it's a good practice to really inspect the hull and get to know the vessel. So IPA also have some data that represent this good story. So if you look at the next graph, you will see that the hull fabrication cost can be managed, and this represents approximately 50% of the IPA FPSO conversions in their database. And you can see that also engineering, project management, and topside fabrication can be under control. So it is possible to reduce the risk, and that is what we are trying to achieve. So what do Altera do? Well, Altera, first of all, we have a stage gate approach. So if you look at the next slide, you will see that the stage gate approach go from initial screening study into feasibility, into concept, into FEED, finalizing of contracts, and into project execution, and of course the operational phase with standardized deliverables and requirement for class maturity on both schedule and costs. So all our systems and processes are developed now with focusing on front-end loading. We look at team approach as key critical. Altera is not the largest FPSO operator out there, so we rely heavily on our partners to ensure that we have a good team approach and that the team that works with the client can work closely and deeply engaged to deliver a solution. So if you look at what we can do then if we own the vessel, I'm going to give you some examples. One aspect that is quite critical is to assess if we have the right vessel, the right size. So one example is, since we have all the information available, we have the G-set curve, the stability curve, the KG max curve, which is the center of gravity to above keel. We can quickly do an estimation of not to exceed topside weight and the corresponding topside center of gravity. All this is enable us to provide an early guidance on restrictions for the topside design and if we have the right and suitable donor vessel for your opportunity. But there's also more we can do. For some of the third solutions, one of the key aspects is what is driving the project. Here for a client, we did several assessment of what would be the benefit, pros and cons with location of a turret. So this was a submerged turret production system, and we looked at the alternative 1 to 3, or actually alternative 0 to 4, where the alternative 0 is a more standard approach. And we looked at alternative 1, 2, and 3, which moved the turret forward, all from moving it into the front of a cargo compartment, into the foreship, or even building a new bow section to include the submerged turret production system. And all that was a good dialogue with the client to see both how we could maximize the storage volume, how we can ensure that we have enough square meter of topside and didn't take away too much of the space for the turret solution, and also to see and have a dialogue with the yard on the constructability and potential complexity of the solution. Again, something that we quickly can do when we know the vessel and we have all the information available to us. But we have more examples that is maybe more not technical, but just as critical. Since we actually have access to the vessel, we can do early inspections, not only by ourselves, but we can also give access to the potential yards. This is critical not only for the yards to understand the quantities and get a feel for the vessel, but it's also from a constructability and really to get a feel for what can be retained and what needs to be changed out. So here you can see samples of a visit report that we could quickly arrange for, even in this COVID-19 situation, that gave confidence to the yard that the vessel was in good condition, and they can reflect and look at some of the key equipment and their potential removal or potential keeping systems available to us. Again, critical in the early phases to give confidence to the client, meaning yourself, that we actually can utilize and the vessel for as a marine platform. Another example that goes beyond the, let's say, inspection of the hull is that since we own the vessel, we of course also know the dry docking schedule. So in this case, we were also able, also in a COVID-19 situation, to enable an independent class society, the vessel was classed with DNV, to prepare further verification that the actual condition as reported by Altera and accepted by class was the correct one. So again, this gave further confidence to the yard that we're on the right path, and hence when we talk with the client, we have a better and more secure position on the commercial and risk aspects in the negotiation, all to ensure that we can deliver on time and on cost. But what is this also gives us is that all these aspects, and if I look at my last example, is that we have a standardized layout and system split. So we have done several conversion projects, and since we have that, we know how we would like to position the topside modules. We know which system that should be rendered to be on the top side, which one should be on the marine side, and where there are interfaces, all defined. And based on that, we quickly can access sizing, where certain modules should be landed, and potential challenges as we get more mature and we get vendor information and or discussion with yards on stick build, module build, or mega module build. All important aspect for us developing an outline marine conversion specification, which we of course also have a standard template on, then take into account all this early development work that is done to really ensure that we captured all key points for the pricing exercise with the yard, and that will also be the supporting documents to the client. All in all, I hope this showed some examples of what we can deliver, what we can do, what we are doing, and not at least that we have this in our toolbox, and that the benefit of utilizing a vessel that we own and own is huge for the client in a field development with regards to reducing risk and ensuring that we deliver on time. So that was the key elements in my presentation, and I'll hand over to Stig for final comments.
Thank you very much, Bernt. Thank you. And when I started today's webinar, I mentioned that this was about how we can bring value to your business So I have tried to summarize the key values for your business here. And of course, the first one, as we have heard a few times, is that we have access to conversion candidates, which all are built by well-respected yards. The next one is that considering we have all the information, not only from a technical point of view, but also from an operational point of view, including the voyage history, then we can actually accelerate assessment and concept studies for potential conversion candidates and select the right one for you guys. Another one I want to bring up here is that the stakeholder, all of them, it can be the yards and can be suppliers, they can actually access the vessel earlier in the development phase because we have that access to it. And of course, that's about how we can reduce risk, how we can be sure that they really know what's in the vessel. And as Bernt said, a set of standard technical solutions, we are working on those, and they can be used for all these shuttle tankers. We have different position of the turret, for example, and the topside layout. And I would say not to forget our stage gate process, because that's really about getting the right focus, doing the project execution at the right time. And finally, of course, all these items here, they bring what really is the important part of it. It's project execution at a lower cost and with minimum risk to ensure that you will get the vessel on time on your field. So thank you very much for listening in today. And now we will go to Q&A. Maria, any questions?
Yes, we have, Stig. Thank you, everyone, for providing us with some questions. I'll start with the first one. I think this is for Bernt to answer. The question is about different type of mooring systems. Pionero de Libra is turret moored and the Bauna unit is spread moored. Could you explain the different types of mooring systems?
Yeah, so it's exactly like you said there. We have different types of mooring system, and we're flexible with the solution that we can offer. We have experience with spread moored system. We have experience with submerged turret production systems, which, for example, APL is deliver, and we have the more standard turret solution. So we can deliver all these vessels, all depending on the requirement from the client, and we have good dialogue with the turret supplier market, and can support and deliver in what is requirement. So there is no restriction as such. It's more what the client see as the benefit for their field, that we will then pursue. Hope that answered the question.
Thank
Bernt,
you,
I think if I just could allow to add a few things, Bernt, because of course for Libra, an important part here is that it's not on the same location. And of course, what it is when you have a turret moored is that you have more freedom with respect to the environmental conditions. So for Libra, there is, as I said, early production facility which can move around. Then for sure there is an advantages in using the turret mooring system. Thank you.
Thank you, Stig, for clarifying. The next question I would also ask Bernt to answer. How is the remaining design life calculated for a seagoing tanker?
So it of course depends on the actual requirement for field life. You know, are we looking at 10-year contract, 20-year contract, etc. And then we do a detailed analysis. We normally use, we have internal capacity, but we use engineering companies that perform these calculations, and that's how it's covered in detail. I'm not going to go to still bending movement analysis, etc. So there are several assessments that are being done, but the critical aspect here for us is that it's not that you use the theoretical design information when you do these calculations. The important aspect is you actually have both the operational history and you have the actual structural condition at the time of these calculations. So what's important for us and what the benefit for us is that since we can ensure that not only do we have control of the operational life of the vessel where she's been trading and for potential fatigue issues and experiences on that specific hull, we also have the latest thickness measurements in all critical aspects. So that combination is what really ensures that we understand the life of the hull and can tackle any issues. And of course, if there's required more steel, then that's required more steel. But it's the combination of information that we have available that will give the details that you need in these analyses. Hope that answered the question.
I would say so. Thank you, Bernt. And just before I continue to the next question, we have a lot of them coming in now, and we make sure we answer you if we don't have time before we end this webinar, but we will get back to you for your questions that you sent in. So I would say the next one would be for Stig. It's a question about the savings. What's in average the percentage of savings between a redeployment FPSO versus this tank conversion scenario?
It's a good question, and it's more or less impossible to answer, let me say it that way, because if you have the right vessel for redeployment, which means that it's a good fit with respect to the top side especially, and the mooring system, and that it goes into the same area where it came from, then the redeployment cost can be really very minor. We have ourselves, we did 9 redeployment with one vessel in the Norwegian Sea, and there was very little cost when we went from one stage to the other. But of course, if you go into a completely different area, a different, let us say, requirement to the top side, then it can easily be nearly as expensive as a new build. And the thing you also need to think about when we are speaking about redeployment is, are the vessel available? You know, if you look at a vessel today, there may be available, and your field development is in 3 years' time, then it may not be available any longer. So there is a lot of different things that needs to be looked at when you are evaluating redeployment compared to a new conversion. What we also see as my last point here is that the most redeployment are for, let us say, smaller field development. It's not for the big one. For the really big one, it's important that there is a very, very good fit between what the reservoir require and what the FPSO is able to provide. So yeah, I did not answer your question here, which had to do with the difference in price, because that's really impossible, but I hope I answered some of the challenges you would have when you need to select redeployment versus a conversion. And of course, you are more than, if you want to, then please contact us and we can discuss it further afterwards. Thank you, Maria.
Yes, thank you, Stig. So I think with that, we have reached 30 minutes. Do we have time for one more question, or should we follow up individually?
I think we have time for a few more.
Okay, then I'll take further down the list. The question is about condition survey. Condition of cargo and ballast tanks are important for selecting a vessel for conversion. The question is if we do those types of services ourselves or surveys ourselves.
No, yeah, no, I guess I can answer. No, we don't do them ourselves. We use independent inspection companies. And normally we also work very closely with the client to ensure that if we have a conversion candidate, that we agree on the actual scope of those assessments. We can use class, but there are also specialist companies to perform this inspection, and it also with regards to availability and location of the vessel versus your in Singapore, Europe, etc. There are different companies, but it's around defining the scope and then using a third party for those inspections. But you would of course build on our own inspections as such, but they are not the key input when at this stage. They give a good indication for a potential focus area, but we use specialist companies to actually obtain the full picture.
Good, thank you, Bernt. And then we have yet another question that is a bit of a twist of the topic of our webinar today. It's what are the opportunities to convert an FPSO to a shuttle tanker? Is that viable compared to a new built shuttle tanker? Any idea, Bernt, on that one?
Yeah, I would say that would be a long shot. The shuttle tankers are fairly sophisticated, or they are sophisticated tankers with a lot of additional equipment like thrusters, Bøtker rudders, and other DP systems, etc. So I would say that we haven't thought of that way around, and we're very happy with the stream of new vessels that we bring in from Samsung, and also reduced emission is a key with regards to new propulsion system, moving from over to gas combustions, etc. So I would say that's probably not the best solution as today. It's client require more and better solutions, and we see that coming not only in the North Sea but also in other markets. So I think we'll have to stick with building new shuttles for the moment. All
right. And then I think we have one more question before we close the webinar. How do you view submerged turrets versus the large external turrets used by some of the FPSOs? Maybe Bernt, that is for you as well to answer.
Yeah, again, they are both designs have their pros and cons. It's something that you have to work with on the specific field. Turret is like the heart of an FPSO, so the selection process is very much a technical one based on the location, and second is a cost evaluation. Especially the submerged turret solution, where you need to disconnect, has a very a huge advantage. It's proven technology, and for instance ourselves, we have a good experience with those solutions. But it's very much up to case by case, and what will be the best fit for that specific field, and it's then everything comes into play: weather, water depth, client's requirements, number of risers, etc., etc. So there's many aspects in that selection.
Perfect. Thank you, Bernt, and thank you everyone for sending in your questions. We will follow up this webinar by distributing a recorded session as well. And for Stig to have the closing words, please, Stig.
No, I just want to thank you all for attending this one, and our intention is to run a new webinar during the next 3 to 4 months. So hope to see you all there. Thank you for today. Bye.